Hi, this is Jason Spangler, the Santee Swapper. I've got a short video here that I wanted to publish to share with you on SanteeSwapperStore.com. This video is going to be talking about the antique mall booth that I've opened at Palmetto Peddlers. Now, Palmetto Peddlers is a really large antique mall in Florence, South Carolina, right off of Interstate 95. It's actually the second location that I've opened an antique mall booth focused on Boy Scout and Girl Scout memorabilia. The first one I opened up in February of 2014 at Somewhere in Time Antiques. That's located at 4420 Con Drive in Lumberton. I had that booth open for about a year and kind of got the idea that maybe I needed to go back to my roots. I grew up in South Carolina. A lot of the memorabilia I have duplicates of are items from the PD Area Council, which is headquartered there in Florence. And so did some poking around and discovered the Palmetto Peddlers. It's a fantastic just marketplace, you might call it, an antique mall that gets lots of traffic. It's very busy, well-run outfit. Went and scoped things out, put in an application. They actually have a waiting list for vendors. Got to talking to the owner, and she showed me a booth that looked just right, a 10 by 10 booth. And I went ahead and took some pictures of it so you can kind of see what it looked like before I got in there. It looked a little sad. It had a lot of potential. I really liked the lighting that this booth had. But the previous owner who was kind of moving out, I guess they had kind of finished what they were doing and kind of winding things down. So I signed up to move in January of 2015 so I could get started. And the location I got, the way they do this in Palmetto Peddlers is they kind of have, they call them roads or streets, I guess sort of like an address. And so mine is at 1700 Easy Street, which actually is just on the second row back from where you would check out. So that worked out pretty good. So in January, I got my stuff ready to go. I had a couple of fellas helping me out. My go-to guy, a fellow from my church that helps me out and works for me, his name is Robert Skipper. He had a truck. And so one day, with a little bit drizzle in the forecast, we loaded up boxes and boxes of Scout stuff into his truck to take down to the Palmetto Peddlers to get me started up. The other thing I had done, in this case, I had invested a lot of money in building custom-made cabinetry to go in there. I'd gone in and measured, and measure twice, cut once, I guess is the old adage. And I got this handyman who'd done a lot of work for me over the years to build me some custom cabinets to go in. So when we showed up at the Palmetto Peddlers with these two fellas in tow, we put everything in, slid it into my booth, and kind of made a little discovery. I'm not exactly an engineer, and so when I was drawing this out on pencil and paper, I thought everything would work too well. But the table that I had him build for the back of my booth, I didn't realize that if we built it to the size that I had asked him, it would literally block the bookshelf and also the uniform rack. And so we had to drag the table back out onto the loading dock and do a little surgery and shorten that puppy down so we could get it to fit just right. But that worked out okay. My handyman had his tools in the truck, and we were able to knock that out. The other thing I wanted to do, I was kind of particular about this booth. I really wanted it to look nice, and so I wanted to have a screening to hide my booth from the other surrounding booth. And so we got some nice lattice work from Lowe's. We didn't bother to stain it or anything. It looked pretty good, and we figured out a way to slide it in behind this support beam there. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell by looking, but this Palmetto Peddlers building actually was a former plant. It was like a manufacturing plant, the facility was. And when it was closed at some point, the owner of this Palmetto Peddlers decided to buy the property and turn it into a humongous antique mall. And it's just a big, vast room. It's really perfect for this. And so you can kind of tell by the flooring and some things and the support beams, the ceilings, what this building used to be in its former life. But it's really a really cool facility. So my workman, Ken, kind of got to work there. We were able to hang the lattice work up and get everything going. He, again, had built these custom uniform racks so I could have plenty of space to hang up uniforms. Got those put together. Then over on the bookshelves, again, all custom made. He did a great job there. We put them all together so we could get it ready to go. In this shot, you can now see that the table is much smaller, and it actually fits in the back. I've also got another table in the front that I'll show you in a second that was pretty clever that we designed and built. I also put down a nice rug that I salvaged from my parents' house. Funny story there. I actually got a call from Palmetto Peddlers one day, and somebody asked me if the rug was for sale. And I said, no, I'm not selling my mom's rug. That's just for decoration. So I passed up on a sale there, but that was okay. So once we got this built, one of the cool things I did was I've got room here for patches, and this front table, the way it's designed is the top is designed to hold a really nice display case that I have already purchased a long time ago from Chris Jensen. I've used it from time to time. And then these shelves here are specifically built for those Jensen boxes that everybody recognizes. I've got some white cardboard ones that I will put in here, and I can load up probably, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 2,000 patches if I do it right, could fit in those shelves, and people could just slide them out. So that worked pretty well. So here's a shot of the booth after our little first day loading things in there. Had these mug racks because at the time I didn't really have a lot of other stuff to go. Even hung an old Jamboree flag up there so I'd have something nice. That's a Robert Lee Council in Virginia, their 1981 Jamboree flag. Don't have any idea how I ended up with it, but I did. Eventually, these mug racks that I used, I had to take them down. They were kind of flimsy, and actually lost a mug because the little wooden pegs weren't really holding them too well. So in version 2.0 that I'll show you here in a second, we actually went with some little screw-in cup holders from Lowe's that worked really, really well. But as you can see, we stocked everything pretty well. The antique mall started to sort of take on a shape of its own. People started, even while we were there, stopping by to kind of see what we had. Funny story here, if you ever got by the Palmetto Peddlers, this is the little seal that I have sitting on the front of my display. And actually, I have this thing priced kind of ridiculous. I had somebody ask me one time, they said, why do you have that for sale for like $200? And I said, well, the truth is, I don't want to sell it. It's kind of like my little decorative piece that goes on my front table. So I just put a ridiculous price on it, and I don't ever expect anyone to buy it. But in subsequent visits to the antique mall, to Palmetto Peddlers, I was able to add more and more stuff. Here you can see where we fixed up the mugs to get them to hang just right. The back table kind of started to take shape. The idea there was I would have the ability to have big clear tubs full of stuff. And so in this picture, you can kind of get an idea of what I've done. One of those tubs is full of Scout shorts, most of them priced in the sort of $10 range. Another is full of Scout hats. Got a lot of hats to try to move. And then actually the other ones, one of them has full of dollar patches. That's kind of a fun little gig I've got going on. In this picture, you can see I have a lot of T-shirts hanging here. And what happened here was I bought the collection of a former lodge advisor from this area, PD Area Council, Santee Lodge, and he had probably 100 different T-shirts from the lodge and the camp, and I really knew that those were things people in this area might be interested in. So just about every shirt that you see hanging here is a local T-shirt, a Boy Scout T-shirt, whether it be for Santee Lodge, Camp Coker, Dixie Fellowship, something like that. Another shot of the mugs hanging up here. You can kind of see what I've got going on. I am not vendor 341. I'm actually vendor 116. I chose that number. That worked out pretty well. In this picture, you can see the nice Jensen frame that I have sitting on the front table. These frames, Jensen doesn't make these anymore. There's a longer story that I won't get into, but I was able to get one of those back in the day. It's a really nice case. It actually has some latches that lock, and I've got some little tiny padlocks on there. And what I decided to stock in here was just all this local stuff. Again, that was kind of the whole idea with this Palmetto Peddlers location. That's the headquarters city for the council that I grew up in, PD Area Council, Santee Lodge. I was a former lodge chief, and so I've got a lot of that stuff, and I wanted a place where I could put that stuff out for sale and make it available to whoever wanted it. Okay, so now as you look at this picture of the Antique Mall booth, you can see how it would look today if you visited. Just an entire wall full of books, OA handbooks, Boy Scout handbooks, even Girl Scout books, Cub Scout books, lots and lots of merit badge pamphlets. Got a bunch of plates hanging up on the top, including some Norman Rockwell and Baden-Powell items, some Boy Scout Scoutmaster hats, even an old Sea Scout hat hanging up there. I've got some paintings now where I did have at one time those mugs. I've got some nice little oil paintings there that are hanging up, some Rockwell prints that are kind of fun. Even put in some backpacks and old-fashioned stuff. These boxes here that are sitting on the table now, the ones that have the yellow backing, those are actually full of neckerchiefs. So that's another item I wanted to put in my Antique Mall booth, just full of neckerchiefs. Plastic tub has dollar patches, as I mentioned before. Now you can pull back a little bit. You can see the uniform racks all full of uniforms ready to go. This picture kind of shows you the how that table would work. I've since then got about another 3 or 4 or 5 boxes in there, but this has got some patches there that can slide out. One of the other cool things I've got hanging up is an old plaque from SE5. That was the section when I was the section chief. That wasn't one of my plaques, but I got it in a collection somewhere along the line. Old Rockwell print, some old Boy Scout backpacks, first aid kits, all that kind of good stuff. And so here in this last picture, you can really see the full booth as it sits today. It's a 10 by 10 booth, but again, I'm really happy with the lighting, really happy with how it turned out. Spent a lot of money on the bookshelves and stuff. I still have not recouped my money on that, even though I'm almost 4 months into this booth. But this is sort of a long-term play for me. I hope I'll have this booth for a long time. It's really actually doing better than the booth I have in Lumberton. This Palmetto Peddlers place gets a lot of traffic, and I have had people go in there and buy mugs and books and different things. Those T-shirts I showed you earlier actually had a guy go in and spend almost $400 buying T-shirts and hats from Camp Coker and Santee Lodge. So that turned out to be a pretty good move on my part. If you want to visit the Palmetto Peddlers, it's open 7 days a week. It's located on Hoffmeyer Road in Florence, South Carolina, not far off Interstate 95. It's a great place to go if you especially have a family, especially a wife. Your wife would love this place. In fact, when I took my family here, we met in Florence one day recently to go to dinner. Brought my mom, my dad, my sister, and her family over to the Palmetto Peddlers just to show them what I was doing. They pretty much spent about 2 minutes in my booth, and they spent the rest of the 30 minutes walking around checking out all the other vendors. So this place is very female-friendly, if you know what I mean, in terms of housewares and all those things. But I'm pretty excited about my scouting booth that I have here. I do intend to put some more Girl Scout items in, and I'm going to be going there soon to stock it up some more. So keep checking back. It's a little bit of local stuff, maybe a lot of local stuff, but I've also got a good mix of books and patches and other things that would interest anyone from around the country.